When doing some research after my Enter the Gungeon video, it became pretty clear to me that Devolver Digital likes to publish some strange games. This is very apparent when you take a look at My Friend Pedro, whose tagline is blood, bullets, bananas. I couldn't make this up if I tried. Developed by Dead Toast Entertainment and published by you know who, My Friend Pedro is a side-scrolling shooter with uniquely puzzle-based platforming. It was based off a Flash game of the same name and made by the same people, so a ton of things from that game carry over here. We start like this and I'm already unnerved. Our protagonist wakes up and we meet our companion, a sentient banana named Pedro, who, as he explains, is our friend. Our buddy tells us that we got knocked out and encourages us to get out of here. We have a little tutorial here where we learn our mechanics. You can wall jump, shoot guns that you pick up, and tuck and roll. There's also the kick, where you kick someone with the might of Zeus, and it does more damage than any of your guns for some reason. And the dodge, where you spin in a circle and that makes you completely invincible. How? Along with this is My Friend Pedro's biggest mechanic: focus. At any time, you can slow down time to a crawl, granting you more time to react or think in action. You have a focus meter though, so when that runs out, time will return to normal. These mechanics are simple, sure, but when it comes to the meat of the game, these all tie in to make a satisfying, flowy gameplay system. My Friend Pedro is level-based, and in each level, you'll be encountering multiple enemies that you have to take out. Shooting them normally gets the job done, but then there's the point system, where taking out an enemy in a more stylish way, like flipping off a wall, rewards you with more points. You have a point modifier at the bottom, which increases with every kill. A point system seems useless now, but I think Pedro executes it well, as getting more points means getting more creative with your kills. You could take these guys out one at a time, but what earns you the most points is using your split mechanic, where when dual wielding guns, you aim one gun at a target and one at another and shoot them both at the same time. Or you can shoot while dodging for a bullet frenzy or shoot a grenade. These all earn more points than just shooting enemies, so you want to get creative for that sweet, sweet high score that's shown to you at the end of each level. The game tallies up your game score, a time bonus, your kills, a no death bonus, and a difficulty rating, depending on the 3 difficulties you choose at the beginning. For motivation, Pedro will appear here and give you a letter grade depending on how well you did. Like an S, which stands for stupidly rad, or a B for bravo, or a C for coconut. What? My Friend Pedro has a lot of replayability for this, as you can go back to previous levels you've played and try to get better at them. We continue through the first area, the Old Town, which as explained to us by Pedro is like a retirement home for senior mobsters. So I'm glad this game gave me some peace of mind by telling me I'm shooting old people. We get a sneak peek at Mitch the Butcher, who runs a meat operation in the Old Town that's actually a front for smuggling unlicensed guns. Pedro states that he's probably the reason we've been put here. You're going to hear me say Pedro says a lot, as we do have a silent protagonist whose memory has gone blank, leaving Pedro as the only one talking. When Pedro's not reminding me that I can dodge for the 10th time, he's explaining the world around us, with quite a bit of charm, albeit a few jokes that don't exactly hit the mark all the time. Most of the time, you can move through Pedro's dialogue boxes, a better alternative to sitting through the cutscene. Proceeding through the levels, one thing to note is that this game is very preparation based. The camera is pulled out quite a bit, so you're able to see most of what's coming up in the next room. This is so that you can take action accordingly to the dangers presented. There's more than just positioning yourself though, as there will be different hazards and objects in these rooms that are specifically there to use for your advantage. There are objects like the super cool frying pan that ricochet bullets at your enemies, or tanks that explode when fired at. There are zip lines to fly over people, and barrels that you can use to roll and crush your enemies. There's a skateboard that you can ride. All sorts of cool things at your arsenal than just guns. Speaking of guns, you'll get a few over your journey. None of them are all that special, but they do have some cool things to them. You have a pistol and an SMG, and due to these being one-handed weapons, you get to dual wield them, which is where the split aim mechanic comes in. There's the shotgun, which one-shots most enemies, a burst assault rifle that also doubles as a grenade launcher, and a sniper rifle that allows you to shoot from far distances. It's basic, but they complement the level design well. When you're not shooting your guns, you'll have these miniature puzzles that you'll be doing. They're also pretty basic, but they're fun and flow well with the movement of the game. It's doing stuff like shooting levers, or pressing a time-sensitive switch. Not hard to wrap your head around, so I doubt you'll be spending very long on any of these. Some levels are entirely based around puzzles, and they aren't my favorite, as My Friend Pedro's best feature is its action, which makes the puzzles where you fight enemies at the same time much better. Making your way through the Old Town gets you to a boss fight with Mitch the Butcher, where you fight him in his truck on top of a motorcycle. You can only aim directly in front and behind you, so you need to drive all around the highway to take him and his minions out. It's actually a really cool boss fight. Controlling the motorcycle feels nice, and it's a decent change of pace from the running and shooting of the main game. Our next location is a construction site, which is hosting the National Bounty Hunter Association's Christmas party. Good thing we don't have a bounty on us. Oh, this place has tons of moving platform puzzles, signs to ricochet bullets off of, and ropes to swing and slide on. The area has this bland industrial feel, and bland is how I can describe most of the areas in this game. There just isn't much going on here. Just a lot of gray and other dull colors being used in these levels. Most of them. Part of me thinks this is intentional, as the playable character does stand out with that banana shirt of his. The end of this place lands us fighting against Denny in a giant aircraft. We have a chase sequence where we fight some bounty hunters and hide from a barrage of bullets, then fight against it using the aforementioned ricochet signs to hit its weak spots. Denny abandons ship, and we chase after him, leading to this really cool falling sequence, where you're in a free fall and have to shoot at other falling enemies while hiding behind falling boxes. My Friend Pedro really excels at making you feel like you're in a cheesy action movie, which is a good thing in this case. Moments like these are just fun and exciting, just what the game needs to be. We have a final chat with Denny, who tells us that it was his sister Ophelia, the director of the Internet, who put the bounty on us after we killed their father, Mitch the Butcher. He then recognizes us and then meets an unfortunate end. We fall into water with the power of plot armor, and then Pedro multiplies? Who brings us to Pedro's world, this dreamlike place with bananas in the sky and bald men watching us. I don't know who this man is. Our first level here contains no enemies, just a puzzle level where every platform disappears as soon as you walk or jump off of it. It's neat, although once again it lacks the action that the game has me accustomed to, so I wasn't that into it. This is remedied by the following levels, where you fight Pedro's haters that have infested his world. Being some kind of dream world, My Friend Pedro has the opportunity to experiment with some mechanics that wouldn't fit in a real world vibe, which is what I'm calling it even though it's far from realistic. The vanishing platforms are one thing, but there's also these screws that you can dodge on to turn, huge springs to jump on, and a whole level based on a propeller hat that has you fly when you dodge. It's all pretty cool, especially that propeller hat that makes you fly. It was probably my favorite level of the game because it stands out so much. We wake up and head to the Internet to confront Ophelia, but first we have to make our way through the sewers. The sewers are infested by gamers whose minds have corroded due to playing too many violent video games and now live down here, only expressing violence. It's supposed to be a parody, but replace violent video games with League of Legends and this gets realer. You fight them as well as ISPs, Internet Service Protectors, sent by Ophelia to stop you. The sewers are probably my least favorite place in the game. I feel it drags on too long and doesn't try much new, with some time-sensitive switch puzzles and moving blocks being the only new things added here. The place is also very bland, with a lot of bricks for a background and an ugly green fog. This train is the last level though, and it is pretty cool. At last, we make it to the Internet, where we're greeted by Ophelia. She gives us a warm welcome, and we venture forward. For being the Internet, this place is rather bland. It's just a lot of pipes and orange, not what you would expect the Internet to look like. To be fair, Pedro does comment on this, so I guess this was intentional? Hey, future Jacob here. So looking back at the footage, it's pretty clear to me now that this is a reference to the series of tubes meme. So I'm just an idiot, but the point still stands. This place's main gimmick are electric barriers that you have to shoot or dodge to progress, some laser wires that send traps when tripped off, and some tanks that explode on bullet impact. This place also has a lot of what you experienced in earlier levels too, which is pretty fitting as it's testing all your skills in the final area. Or at least it would be fitting if the sewers didn't do the same thing. You fight some ISPs, dodge the traps, beat the level that is only traps, and eventually you make it to Ophelia. And here she drops the big twist that you were her brother all along. Mitch was your father, Denny was your brother, and you killed them both. She says she understands your actions, but can't let you go. And from there, you engage in a pretty solid final battle. Due to Ophelia being your flesh and blood, she moves and fights the same as you. She can roll, dodge, wall jump, all the things you've been doing through your whole adventure. She's pretty tough too. After beating her, Pedro comes out and explains everything. The brother was torn up with his family's dirty antics, but wasn't strong enough to betray his family. So him and Pedro come up with a plan to erase his memory and create a fake story so he would have reason to kill them. But Pedro has one more promise to fulfill the brother, so he takes over your body, pulls out a gun, and tries to finish his story. But you can resist. Resisting leads to the true final boss fight in My Friend Pedro, against the banana himself. Pedro is now giant. You are riding a walrus, and nothing makes sense anymore. He's got two phases, one where you shoot bombs, he spits at you back at him, and a gun duel mixed with spiny balls and nightmare fuel. Pedro is unable to fulfill his promise, and explodes in defeat. With everything over and done, we wake up, take off our mask, and Well, that was My Friend Pedro, everybody. It was a bizarre, very short adventure. Almost too short, but looking at the amount of replayability with the difficulty choices and game modifiers that can be found as secrets in the levels, you can probably get much more out of this game than just one run-through. My Friend Pedro is purposely very strange and over the top, which aren't bad things at all. With some dips in level quality, it certainly isn't perfect, but if anything interests you, you should pick it up. It's a fun ride.